Hi there, my name's Adrian and welcome to this very first episode of Aid's Workshop. Today, as the title suggests, we're going to look at my WM180 WARCO lathe. I'm really quite pleased with the machine, although there were a couple of issues when I first bought it and a few things that perhaps WARCO should really address. Okay, so it's the WM180 model from WARCO. I purchased the digital readout system, 2-axis digital readout. A little magnetic box sits on the top here. Excuse my shaky hands, I'm having to do this on the fly. But basically sits on the top of there, and you've got 2-axis DRO. Now the fitting of the DRO by WARCO, as I say, I bought it with the DRO fitted, throws up a few issues with access to various components on the lathe. So that's the compound slide DRO rail. And the other one, which isn't really a problem at all, is tucked under the back, which is the DRO for along the bedways of the lathe. So one of the issues, and this is quite a major one, so listen to this one, WARCO, is that underneath the DRO, let me just show you here, I've actually fitted a hexagon-headed bolt. Now this is the lathe carriage lock. Now, it's completely inaccessible when it's got its original Allen bolt in it, as fitted by WARCO, which would be on the standard machine without a DRO. And there's no way in this gap, you can see the little bolt there, there's no way in this gap that you can get an Allen key in, whether you cut it down short or what have you, and then trying to get the hexagon of the Allen key located in the end of the Allen bolt is an absolute nightmare. So, first job was to swap it out for a 12mm bolt, and then you can get a spanner on it quite simply. Let's have a look. Let's get the spanner that they provided. Here we go. So 12mm spanner on the bolt, and you can now lock the carriage. So that's the first one to address, WARCO. Take the Allen bolt out and fit a hexagon bolt, so at least it's possible for the owner to lock the carriage. Now the second problem is the restriction of travel of the compound slide. Now since they've fitted, let me get under here so you can see, since they've fitted the top rail for the DRO, which is this, it's basically an aluminium angle, which is right, let's have a look, here, this aluminium angle, it restricts the travel of the compound slide. Now I've got it set on 30 degrees here, so if I wind it in, it comes to a point where the hand wheel, let's see if I can get a good picture of this. The major diameter of the hand wheel will come across. Should have got this a bit closer before we started. Let's have a look. Can we get in there? Wait for it. Get a bit close in here with 2 seconds. Here we go. Is starting to foul on the metal plate. So basically, it's restricting the travel of the compound slide. So I've now got, let's have a look, a usable area. In fact, it's worse if I have it at 90 degrees, of about 25mm. And it's wasting, let's have a look here, about 15mm of the travel. So where it would have had about 40mm of travel, it's reduced by almost a half down to 25mm. Now that's quite annoying. So I think a bit of a thought on a redesign of how this plate is fitted, maybe lower down and what have you. Secondary to that, this top plate and the DRO itself completely denies you access to the gib keys adjustments, which are underneath and right at the back, which normally without a DRO would be easy to get to, so that you can adjust the gibs and adjust the tension on the cross slide. But as it stands now, you just can't get at them. So you've got to set it once, take it all off, set it once, get it right, then put it all back together, and hopefully you haven't got to get in there for some time afterwards. So that's the first gripes with the DRO. Another little gripe with the DRO, it's not what I was expecting. I've worked with machinery with DROs fitted for years and years, and there's always been, on every DRO, this is a very basic model, but there's always been the capability where you can come to a position and actually give it a number. So say I machined a diameter in the lathe to 20 millimeters, for example. And then I decided, okay, I've measured it, mic'd it up, I know it's exactly 20 millimeters, so let's set our axis to 20, and then I know that if I come in and my axis says 25, I've got a 25 diameter, and so on and so forth. There's no way you can actually put a reading in. All you can do is, from any given point, is re-zero it. That's it. So if you move something, you can then re-zero it, and that's all you can do. So I can't say that is now 20 millimeters from the chuck. You know, it's not possible to actually give that a known size. So yeah, that's another little gripe, but okay, there's ways around it, and you don't always need to set in a set figure. You can, say, okay, I know 0 is 10 millimeter. If I come out 2 millimeters, I know that will now be a 14 diameter, but you have to keep a mental note of where you are in relation to your 0. So yeah, that's the only gripe as far as the DRO. So as I say, this is the lathe as it came. Obviously it hasn't got the travelling steadies which come bolted onto the bed, the fixed steadies, etc. One thing I'm pleased about, and I've used these sort of small lathes before, where you've got a nut on the tailstock, you've got to tighten up to lock the tailstock off, but this one you've actually got a lever lock which does actually lock it up quite solid. A little bit of a problem when your tailstock actually falls in this area, because you can't lock it off. Locking handle hits the guard, so you've always got to sort of adjust your quill so you're either side of that when you're locking your tailstock off at the back of travel. But apart from that, that's pretty much it as it stands. So the next thing we're going to look at is the tool post. Now this is as it was supplied with the standard tool post. I did break the handle off for the tool post lock. No problem, it was very weak. It was identical to the one on the top of the tailstock here, so I just replaced it with a turnstile one, M6 thread on the end, screwed it in, a little bit of Loctite, and it's now actually far more comfortable than these original ones. Nicer in the hand, bit more ergonomic as it were, and functions perfectly. Now I purchased with the lathe a quick change tool post. So let's just remove the standard tool post and put what is reputed to be a quick change tool post on the lathe. Now this came ready to fit, direct replacement, and changes out for the original tool post. Let me just show you one of the tool holders. It came with 4 tool holders, and they all have a stop on the top, and you have to use an Allen bolt or an Allen key to lock off the tool holder, and it will lock it off fairly solid. Few issues with this. Repeatability. The high adjusting screws were absolute rubbish. The ones that came with it, they were drilled and tapped into the top of the blocks at all sorts of angles, totally unserviceable. So I changed the original, I believe they were M5s, changed it out for M6, re-drilled and tapped the top of all the blocks so that the threads were square, so that at least, it wasn't all on the, moving around on the top. Re-machined the little adjusting knobs out to M6, put a proper lock nut on there, Loctited in some M6 bolts of a suitable length, and that cured that problem. The only other issue, or 2 other issues, is the repeatability. I know it's a bit annoying that you need to get your Allen key to undo, basically to undo and loosen off each tool to put them back in again, but I could live with that. But it's just the repeatability of, you take a tool out, put it back in, it's in a different place. It's plus or minus 0.1 of a millimeter sometimes. It's awful. The other drawback with this design, let me just show you this, is the way it works. Let me just take the handrail off. Excuse me. Is you've got a clamping bolt that runs through. When you tighten the bolt, it deflects this flexure here, which tightens up on the 2 dovetails and locks the tool in place. So it's a bit of a poor design, but it does work and it does lock the tool in place, although, as I said, repeatability is a bit rubbish. The other issue is this slit, well, both of the slits, actually go right the way through to the bottom of the block. So when the block is placed on the compound slide, if you ever loosen it off and move it, any swarf that's gone down contract out from underneath the flexure gap and sit on top of the compound slide. So you loosen it off, rotate your slide, go to tighten it back up again, and you've got all sorts of swarf and goodness knows what in the gap underneath, causing it not to sit down properly and what have you. So all in all, I'm really not happy with this, and I'd strongly recommend that if anybody wants a quick change tool post for their WARCO WM180, don't buy the one from WARCO, buy a decent one. I've got a few options. What I'm going to do is actually manufacture my own based on the piston type design, which is probably the simplest one that I can make on this lathe and without a milling machine. So I'm going to make a piston type quick change tool post and replace this all together and throw it away. Oh, another little laugh. There's the 4 blocks that came from WARCO. It did come with a parting tool with the blade. It comes with two standard tool holders, and then one with a little, where is it, which one, that's the one, one with a groove in the bottom to take a boring bar. Now, it's all very well if you've got like, I don't know, 10 or 12 mil circular tool steel, something like that, you know, high-speed steel in there, which will sit in the little V groove. But quite commonly now, boring bars have a flat on the top, on the bottom of them. So, you know, it's actually pointless having that. But yeah, 4 of them. So I thought when I bought it, oh, 4 isn't going to be enough. It had arrived, you know, I'd set it up with various tools, and then thought, okay, let's buy another 2 or 3 of the standard holders. I'm sure I can get them from WARCO. No, out of stock. Went back a month later, back onto the WARCO website for this this tool post. No, out of stock. I can buy a complete new tool post, but I can't get any replacement or you know, secondary tool holders from WARCO, and I can't find this particular type of tool, quick change tool post, anywhere else. So, long and the short of it, I'm going to throw all this away, make my own quick change tool post, and then I can basically get some steel stock in and machine as many tool holders as I like, as and when I need them, so I can have, you know, several dozen or so of them in various guises should I need them. So yeah, probably my last gripe on the machine itself, quick change tool post. If you're buying it from WARCO, don't bother with a quick change tool post. Buy one from eBay and what have you. I would say go for this, if you're going to get a piston type one, make sure that the body is steel and not aluminium, because the aluminium ones are, well, probably worse than this one. But if you get one of the piston type quick change tool posts, make sure it's got a steel body. Okay. So I think that's enough moaning and groaning for one day, don't you? And I can guarantee you that'll probably be the last moaning and groaning that I ever do on my site. Apart from the weather, of course. I live in Britain and we do moan about the weather, but there we go. Anyway, future videos will show you all the various modifications and improvements I've made to the lathe, and of course the manufacture of the new quick change tool post. I've been Adrian, thank you for watching, and it's definitely bacon sandwich time.